Happy New Year, everyone. I hope 2025 has been going well for you so far. 2024 was a very strange year in a lot of ways. A lot happened, it had its ups, it had its downs, but specifically in terms of this channel's output, I like to think it was a pretty good year. I've only really started to hit my stride with making content I don't hate a couple weeks later from 2023 onwards, and so I thought it might be fun to do a kind of unscripted year in a review where I go back through every single video that I made in 2024 and just give my thoughts on how much I still like the videos, maybe some behind the scenes stories that might be fun to share, and answering a couple questions that were given on the community post that I made about this. I'm not going to be structuring it like a proper Q&A where I highlight who asked the questions and then go through every single one of them. I just had to look through them, and any that I could work into the bullet points that I've listed down here for each of the videos, I just tried to work those in as naturally as I could. I don't have a proper script to go off here, just again a list of bullet points because I rewatched all of the videos, and I don't know how long most people can normally listen to themselves yap before going insane, but I have discovered that 11 hours is a little bit past that limit. So yeah, don't listen to 11 hours of your own voice over a couple days. It is a maddening experience. So let's take this video by video, and I'll try not to have this run for too long. So starting things off is the top 10 most wanted death battles video. I'm kind of glad and not glad that this was done when it was. Like, I promised that if Tom vs. Lee got far enough in the Tournament of Champions, then I would guarantee this is my first video of the year, which I came to sorely regret because I think I remember getting kind of bored working on this one towards the end of it, and I think that's partly down to just the topic, because death battle matchup discussion is something I've become just really jaded on, I guess. Like, outside of discussing what would be cool to see with direct friends, I just find matchup discussion now so boring. I hate matchup tier lists, I hate overly long connections lists. It just is not something I find enjoyable to do. The video was still kind of fun to write and kind of just talk about the characters that I want to see Death Battle use, but I just don't think I quite had that same passion for it as I did for a lot of my other output this year, and so I wouldn't say this is one of my favorites of the year. Alright, to get back on the topic of the timing of it, so because this was the first video I released of the year, I think I put it out at some point in February, and then like a couple weeks to a month later we got the notice that Rooster Teeth would be shutting down and Death Battle would potentially just end. And so that was just really unfortunately timed, that not long before was me making a video about, hey, here's what I want to see Death Battle do in the future, and then there was the possibility that they might just not be able to do anything in the future. So I was kind of tempted to like take the video down for a little bit just because it just didn't feel appropriate to have up, I guess. But now that Death Battle's back on its feet and doing its thing again, I guess I'm kind of also in a way glad I did it when I did, because if I didn't do it then and the couple month gap where we were uncertain of the show's future happened, I just don't think I would have gotten around to it in the later parts of the year. So I guess that's better than having no video at all. I think the matchups on the lists have not changed since then, but the order probably has. I'd probably put Henry vs. Second Coming as my most wanted now. A little bit of the appeal of Boros Battle Beast has been lost now that the Sundisk feat means that Battle Beast would fucking fold Boros like a piece of paper, so it's not as hard to predict as it was before. What other bullet points have I got here? Oh yeah, why did I make it a top 11? Like, what was the point of putting Spot versus Jobu in there? That was just a bunch of extra unnecessary work for myself. I don't even think it was really worth it. I guess it was cool to talk about the movies that I like, but we really did not need the extra spot. Oh yeah, and there's like a 1 second long audio cut in the Yor versus Bride section, and it is really annoying because I don't even know why it's there. I rendered every single section of that video separately, did a test upload of them, and they all were fine, but then when I rendered the full project several times, each time it had that cut in the number 3 section, and I don't know why. And I could have just carried it over to the next day and fixed it then and just not had that blemish on it. But like I said, I was getting kind of bored working on such a large project that I wasn't even that interested in by the very end. And so I just didn't think it was worth it. I'm like, I'd rather just have that 1 second oddity in a 40-minute video and get to be able to move on to projects that I'm actually really passionate about, rather than being a perfectionist over it. If I was making it for someone else, I absolutely would have fixed it, but for my channel, I wasn't bothered by it enough to want to go back to work on it. Oh, that segment is turned out a lot longer than I was wanting it to, so let's, I think the 2023 media video will be a quicker one to discuss. I actually think this is one of my favourite videos of the year. I got to just talk about a lot of things I was really passionate about that I'd gotten to watch or play lately, and that was a lot of fun. Celeste especially just felt really good to get my thoughts about onto paper and into a video. That game really does mean a lot to me. I really enjoyed my playthrough of it. Still haven't gone for 100%, because that final level just intimidates the hell out of me, but maybe someday. The one thing about the video that I really didn't like on a rewatch, and I don't know if this is just a me thing, the way I described the atomic breath scene in Godzilla -1, I really hate the wording that I did for that. It fucking reeks of Death Battle reviewer brain rot. Like, bro, come on, just say the sequence is well directed or that the build-up was good. Why are you describing it like the killing blow in a Death Battle animation? Very much wish I worded that differently, but other than that, there's nothing about this video that I look back on and cringe, at least not yet, so that's a good sign, I hope. Oh right, also, when I say that Godzilla -1 was my favourite film I'd ever seen in theatres, besides a couple of exceptions, my favourite film of all time is The Martian, and I saw that for the first time in theatres, so what the fuck was I talking about? The Elm Street video. This was fun to try and get done for Max's birthday, given that he was the reason I even started watching those movies. And I think the video is fine, it's nothing special, but I also don't hate it. Horror movies in general are not my strong suit, so I don't think this is one that particularly plays into my strengths, but I did kind of like the bit that I did with just not even addressing the reboot until the very last sentence. But yeah, it was fun to watch these alongside the Friday the 13th films that I was watching in calls with Max and Dawn. I forget at what point I decided I would make the Elm Street video. I don't know if I decided from when I watched the first one, or if I got near the end of them and was keeping track of my thoughts as I went along and was trying to hide it from Max when we watched the Friday films. Either way, he liked the video. I think it made for a nice surprise on his birthday, and that means it did its job, I guess. Now on to the Death Battle Season 10 ranking, and despite the fact that this is one of my longest videos I've ever made, I honestly don't have much to say about it. I don't really remember much about the behind the scenes process. There weren't any stories that I could put into this section. It's just, this is the annual Death Battle season ranking, and considering that I've grown to dislike a lot of the Death Battle videos I made prior to 2023, I guess that means that by default this is my favourite Death Battle season ranking that I've done. Like, this and the Season 9 one are the only ones I'm particularly happy with to any real extent. And no, I'm not redoing the season rankings again. That sounds genuinely miserable. I would rather do pretty much any other video that is in my ideas document. I guess the one anecdote I could share about this one is that I did get a couple messages, I think even one or two from some Death Battle team members, saying that they really appreciated the message at the end about how I wished the best for the show and the crew going forwards. So that was nice that it resonated with them. Otherwise, I think it does the job. It gets my opinions on those 16 episodes across. I like how long I waffled about Goku vs Superman. That was kind of novel to do a ranking segment that was longer than 10 minutes. Like, that could have been its own video in and of itself. But for the most part, not really much to say about this one. I immediately followed that up with the Finding Nemo One Last Scene video, which I also think is probably my weakest non-Death Battle video of the year. Like, I don't hate it, but it very much feels like an I need something quick and easy to do after the Death Battle ranking video, which is why it was so short. It is by far my shortest video of the year, and I don't necessarily have many problems with my analysis, but it kind of feels a bit redundant after the Pixar ranking, and I don't know what it is. I just feel like I was having an off day when I was recording that one. I don't know if it shows given how my voice is usually pretty monotone, but when I go back and listen to it, I can generally tell if I just was not in the right position to be recording on a certain day. And I forget what it was, but it might have been that I'd sounded congested or tired. Either way, probably shouldn't have been recording that day. That's the same issue that I, funnily enough, think I had with the last Nando v Movies Open Invite collab I participated in. It especially sucks because that Leap of Faith joke that I do comparing it to Spider-Verse's Leap of Faith scene, that was a joke I thought of years ago for an entirely different video, so I've had it in the back of my mind for a long time, but I think I completely flubbed the delivery of it, and that's a bit disappointing. Not a terrible video, I guess, but not one of my stronger showings. It's nice to be part of the playlist, though. Next, though, is a video that I am actually really happy with in retrospect. The Mario Kart 64 track ranking that I did with Sam. This one was a lot of fun to write with him, and I'm really glad that I reached out and asked him if he wanted to collaborate with me, because I don't think the video would have been very fun if I had done it on my own. I just don't really like Mario Kart 64, which is entirely a me thing. It's a proficiency deficiency on my end that I have just not gotten good enough with the controls because I don't find much enjoyment in them. But having that alternate perspective from an experienced player like Sam was beneficial to the video, I think. It meant we got to go into a lot more detail for each individual track than I have for any other Mario Kart video that I've done. I think I emphasized the qualities of the lower B tier courses more than I normally would, because otherwise the video just wouldn't have had as much enthusiasm in it, and I don't think that would have been as fun to watch. But yeah, I think I might have oversold Banshee and Sherbet Land. Not that I skewed where I placed them on the list. I still was honest with the opinions I had on them. I just hyped up the good qualities of them in a way that made it seem like I think they're better than they actually are. I also noticed that I lean into the jokes with this one a lot more than most other videos I did this year. I think that's just because I was having so much fun with the scripting process. I still really like the edit I did of the Evangelion scene with the DK Jungle Parkway River. That still puts a dumb smile on my face. It was also fun to see Sir Musty react to this one live. For those who don't know, he reacts to a lot of Mario Kart videos, but he does like the good kind of reaction content where he provides his own insight and commentary and feedback on how the video was made, and it was cool to see him critique this one and get to talk with him afterwards. There's also the whole hot orange juice incident, which that has taught me that if you mention a nostalgic childhood beverage that you have not actually had in a while, the Sir Musty Discord server will latch onto it as your sole personality trait because they don't know anything else about you. I actually did start drinking it again during the winter because I wanted a hot, non-caffeinated drink, and yeah, I still really like it. Then the Spy Family Code White review, which statistically you have not seen because it was the worst performing video of the year. Not that I was bothered by that though, I was just happy to yap about this movie that I liked. It's not like a deep review or anything. These first viewing and playthrough videos aren't really meant to be that, just my general first impressions to something. And it was a really fun one to make. The morning that I saw the movie in cinemas was really aggravating for reasons I won't get into, but then once I was able to just shut off and see some of my favorite characters on the big screen, that was such a great experience. I wish I could relive it for the first time. I'm also remembering the boomstick edit that I did for this one, because when I was watching the movie and they got to the game at the gun stand, I could not for the life of me stop thinking about how much the guy running the stand looked like Boomstick. I'd certainly like to do more of these first impressions kind of videos on new movies that come out. I would have absolutely done one for Sonic 3, but I just don't have enough time to slot it into my schedule before I feel like too much time has passed. Who knows though, maybe I'll end up finding myself really inspired by the Minecraft movie. I'm not covering the Death Battle reaction highlights compilation because that's not really a video from this year, it's just a compilation of stuff from 2023, so we're just gonna pass right over that one. The 2000s Pixar movie ranking then is the best video that I made all year. It was just the most fun to go back and watch the movies. It was a ton of fun to put my thoughts about some of my childhood favourites to paper. Going back and gathering footage just gave me an excuse to rewatch a bunch of clips, so that was lovely. And I think I explained my thoughts on everything pretty much as well as I could have. I still think there are some lines where I would change the wording to be a little less clunky, or maybe I could have done another take, but overall I'm very satisfied with this one. I'd also say this is likely my favourite comment section I've ever had for a video. It was cool to see everyone sharing the same passions for these movies that I had. And generally, it was really encouraging, with a lot of people saying this is one of my best videos and that the passion for it really shined through. So that was really lovely and heartwarming to see. It was also great to finally have an opportunity to throw those 2 up clips into a video. My friends and I would meme them all the time, and I couldn't pass up the opportunity. The One Punch Man OVA rankings. So I'm kind of at a weird spot with my One Punch Man videos where I think they have progressively gotten technically better. Like, my confidence in recording is just gradually getting better between each of them. But in terms of the actual content of them, I'm just not as passionate about each passing one going forward. Like, I still love Season 2 and I liked a lot of the OVAs, but Season 1 is just one of my favorite things ever. And so having a really outdated recording for that one kinda stings, because I think I'm still really happy with how I wrote the top couple segments for that. And then the Season 2 ranking I'm still happy with. And then the OVA ranking I'm also really happy with. Like, I think this is probably technically the best of the 3 videos, but I wish I could have done the Season 1 video with the same kind of confidence that I did the OVA one with. Can't dwell on that though, because I do still like the OVA video. Like I mentioned in the video, I did edit it while I was away on a family trip. Like, I wasn't going off on my own just to edit, I was still going about and doing stuff during the day, but whenever I had time during the evenings or at night, I'd spend a bit of time gathering footage and editing the video together. It didn't take especially long because I'd already had the audio pre-prepared, but it was a relaxing way to spend my evenings. The place I was staying at though didn't have great Wi-Fi, and so the upload for this one took like 3.5 hours when normally it would only take like 3.5 minutes. I spent that entire time playing Mario and Luigi Dream Team. That was fun. The video is kind of short and breezy, which I think is fair given that the OVAs are also very short and breezy, and I'm glad I got to discover the credit song because it has been one that I have gone back to a lot whenever I get stressed out and need to relax myself. I also learned that Makoto Furukawa, the Japanese VA for Saitama, is actually a very talented singer. He also did the Season 2 ending song, and I'd highly recommend going to listen to that because it's also very good. Go check out some of his original music as well because his voice is amazing. It's funny how much he has to actively hold himself back to stay in character when singing as Saitama. The favourite Death Battle scenes video for seasons 9 and 10. This is a decent enough filler video. I don't really have a ton to say about it. It's nice to just go back and look at some of my favourite scenes across Death Battle's more recent seasons, but there's not much more to the video than that. I like it fine enough. I actually finished this one before the One Punch Man OVA video, just because I had some time to kill in June, and I prepared that in advance just so I could publish it whenever Nems was ready. Nem had a lot of other stuff on his plate around the time, so I didn't think he would get around to it for a while. But then one day I was speaking to him and mentioned that the One Punch Man video had ended up tanking, and he ended up getting his done like the next week after that, so that was really nice of him. And then for a video that was absolutely not a quick and easy one, the Mario Kart 8 track ranking. So this is the longest scripted video that I have ever made, and with any luck it will remain the longest scripted video that I've ever made. But even then, I feel like there were some segments of this video where I definitely could have done a better job explaining why they placed where they did. A couple tracks, some that jumped to my mind immediately are Athens Dash and Piranha Plant Cove. I feel were kind of brushed over, and I wish I could have elaborated on them a little more. There's also the issue where, because I wrote most of the segments out of order, I tried to keep the adjectives I use varied enough, but in a video as long as this, there's gonna be some overlap, and there were some parts where a lot of tracks came one after the other where I used very similar descriptors, so I wish I'd caught that ahead of time and adjusted the script accordingly. Like, it's not an issue with overusing the same words and phrases, though I definitely still need to work on that as well, but when I happen to use them for 6 courses almost in a row, that's a sign that maybe I do need to be a bit more thorough when checking over my scripts. Overall though, I'm happy with the video. It was a lot of fun to play through 8 Deluxe for like 30 hours to write it. It was actually the first script I wrote towards the start of the year. I want to say I finished it around January time and then just kind of had it ready to go whenever I would have the time to get around to editing it. And then once I got back from my trip in June, I decided I would try and get it out towards the end of July. I really did not make things easier on myself myself by comparing a lot of the retro tracks to their original versions. So I would keep having to go out of my way to gather other footage online from the other versions of the tracks that I was talking about, and it made the process take a little longer than it probably could have. It was also very nice of Jacob to do that Gravity Falls edit for me. We were in a call and he was discussing that he would be happy to edit a video for me, and I told him I probably wouldn't take him up on it since I don't have the budget for it and I would not feel right about not paying him. But then when he also offered, well, if there's any like individual short little bits you want me to do, and I realized, oh wait, I could actually get him to do this edit that I did for a bit in the Mario Kart video, except this time it would actually look good. I took him up on that, and he got it done very quickly, and that was really cool of him. Everyone say thank you, Jacob, in the comments. I forgot to mention when I initially recorded this, Musty also did a reaction for this one on stream, which I was in the live chat for, and then once the video was over, I hopped in a VC with him and we just chatted on stream for a couple hours. The VOD for that is still up on his channel. If you're interested in checking that out and have a couple hours to spare or are just wanting some background noise, I'll have that linked in the description. I still go back and listen to some parts of that stream sometimes. The conversation went in directions I never would have expected. It was really fun.
There's an image I think about, it's like a clip of like screaming Walter White, and it's captioned like, me at the sheer thought of making a woman uncomfortable.
True, I'm not even, that's so true.
This then takes us to the Death Battle Kickstarter video, the favorite episodes and moments thing. So I don't like this video. It's a nice stroll down memory lane at parts, but it's also kind of boring and it repeats a lot of what I've said before. And remember what I said earlier about when I can tell that my voice just was not in a good state to be recording that day? So I can tell that my voice was strained that day. And as much as I would have liked to have just pushed it back to another day, the deadline for this one was very tight, so I could not afford to wait any longer. So to give you a bit of insight into how this video came to be, I was in a call one night with some friends while I was getting ready to finish up the Mario Kart 8 video. I think by this point I was just a few days out from getting it done. And then DJ joins and asks to speak to me in private, so I call with him and he asks, hey, so the Death Battle Kickstarter's coming up. This was publicly announced at this point, and just to try and get a bit more attention towards it, maybe boost it in the algorithm, the Death Battle team was approaching various Death Battle content creators. So people like me, Nem, Galactic Attorney, anyone that was shouted out on the Kickstarter stream basically. And I got briefed on what it was they would be looking for. There was a document with all the specifications, and I said, yeah, sure, that sounds fine. So when would you need it by? And he says, well, the Kickstarter's gonna go live on Tuesday, so we'd ideally want things in by Monday. I think by this point it was maybe Thursday or Friday, so that gave me a couple days to get things finished. And I gotta stress, this is not a fault of Death Battle, this is a fault of me for not managing myself properly. They emphasized, please do not feel pressure to make the videos long, just needs to be a couple minutes, doesn't need to be ambitious or anything, just bring up the talking points, your favorite episodes, your favorite moments within the community, make them as long or short as you want, there is no pressure either way. And I thought, oh, this will be easy to do, so I think I finished up the Mario Kart 8 video, got that published, and then over the weekends, I was just getting this done as quickly as I could. So I want to say I wrote everything on either Friday or Saturday, and I was not intending to make a long video, but I just kept typing, and by the time I'd finished the video, had come up to about a 12-minute long script, which to get done in a couple days was a lot more from scratch than I had ever done before. And then I went and saw Deadpool and Wolverine with my friends that weekend. But that entire time, I'm like, okay, as soon as this movie is over, I need to get home. I need to record. I need to edit down the audio. I need to get footage gathered. The deadline was very tight. I think Monday came around, and once I'd gotten home from work, I'm like, okay, I've got maybe 6 hours before I have to go to bed to wake up at a reasonable time for work tomorrow. So I was booking it that entire night. I spent pretty much the entire evening editing, and I was in bed later than I was hoping I would be, but I got everything ready. I think I tweeted out just a gif of Flint Lockwood typing on his computer, and that was pretty much what I was doing, except on my phone, because I edit on my phone. And then once I'd submitted the finished video to DJ, I think I just tweeted out the gif of Squidward deflating, because the pressure was off. And then once the video was able to be published the next day, it was just the Thanos sitting watching the sunrise on the Grateful Universe. So editing was tough on this one. I really felt the pressure, which is my own damn fault because I didn't know when the fuck to stop. But honestly, it was actually my favorite part of the process. Like, I did not like the writing process because I could just see the word count building up, and I just couldn't make myself stop for whatever reason. And then recording, well, I mentioned the strained voice, so I figured that out. But then when editing came around, it was really just a nice stroll down memory lane, getting to rewatch a bunch of clips as I gathered footage. It was actually really nice, in spite of how stressful it was. I don't think the final video turned out to be particularly good, and I will forever be frustrated at myself for just making things more difficult than they needed to be. But ultimately, I was happy to be able to give something back to Death Battle for the amount that show's done for me over my life. If I was able to get even a couple more eyes on the Kickstarter, then it was all worth it. What was also worth it was the fact that everyone who contributed got a shout out from Ben on the live stream. And I don't know if DJ or anyone else set him up for this, but he read out everyone else's name normally, and then when he got to me, he said everyone's favorite Biffweed. I don't know why or if anyone put him up to it. Frankly, I'm surprised he even knew me by name, but it was really nice, and it made me really happy to hear it live in a call with my friends. And then back to back, we have two of my weakest videos of the year, I think. The Death Battle Kickstarter matchups thoughts one. Like I've mentioned before, I just don't find matchup discussion all that interesting, and I don't think this video did anything particularly interesting enough with it. It really is just like 15, 20 minutes, however long, I don't remember, of me going, this could be cool. This was the first of 4 weekly uploads I did, and the next 3 were projects that I was actually really excited for. But I also knew they were not going to do well at all, so I think even though I did kind of want to talk about some of the matchups here, this video was a lot more of a, oh, I'll put this out real quick so that YouTube doesn't think my channel's dead kind of video than I would normally make. Which, it filled its role because people were curious to hear my thoughts on the matchups, I guess. There are a couple of parts of the video I wish I'd done a bit differently. Like, I think the jab at Light versus Walter was kind of out of pocket in retrospect. Like, I'll take any opportunity to dunk on people who try and get all high and mighty because they can list more things characters have in common, but the way this one was worded kinda just threw shade at anyone who liked the matchup, which, nah, that wasn't really cool of me, and I apologize about that. It was definitely an oversight in the writing process, especially since I don't even dislike the matchup. I think if that was what they went for, if they weren't as passionate about Columbo, then I wouldn't be opposed. What I also didn't explain very well is why I don't like Hulk vs. Godzilla for Death Battle, and that really just comes down to the fact that they're both returners. Hulk had diminishing returns against Broly already. I really am not interested in seeing him for a third time, and now that I'm actually a fan of Godzilla after having watched all of his movies, I could not be less interested about how he's this higher dimensional deity and that the main Godzilla is only an avatar of his true form or whatever. This matchup will get into dimensional tearing and multiversal destruction, and God, I just don't care. The matchup itself is fine, I just am not interested in it for Death Battle specifically, and it does not play into my interests. I am sure the episode will be good, I'm just not very excited for it. The first of the 3 weekly uploads I put up after that was the TF2 character shorts ranking, and this was one of the most fun ones to work on this year for me. I really like getting to get in a call with Larry and yap about how much we like TF2, because it's an interest of mine that I don't really talk about much, so that was nice to get to talk about it in a video. It was also very sweet to see TF2's comic finally get to wrap up later in the year, so that was timed surprisingly well. I don't have much else to say about this one other than I'm still happy with the video. I think it turned out to probably be one of my better ones of the year, and it was just really fun to work on with Larry. I don't tend to call one-to-one with people very much. Normally it's just in a group setting, so it was nice to get the rare one-to-one call while we wrote this and just get to talk, really. Hopefully I'll have more projects like that coming out in the future. It was also really neat to see the passion everyone had for TF2 in the comments. There were a couple that brought up details for some of the shorts that I'd never even picked up on, so that was cool. Then was the test run for this exact video, actually. lastly, the Mario Kart 8 Cup tier list. I think the experiment worked, but the writing process is my favourite part of making these videos, so I can't see myself doing it too often. I think this was pretty much the perfect way I could have tested this format out. Since it was a topic I was passionate about, I wanted to do the video, but if it was to turn out bad, I wouldn't be wasting an idea that I could have gotten more out of, since I'd already done the track ranking. I do still think I have some problems to iron out with it. I noticed that I will trail off sometimes and end up repeating the same phrases. I hope I've not been doing that in this one, because that will be very ironic. But yeah, I'm happy with this one, and it was cool to try a different kind of ranking video as I go through things chronologically in order as I go. And the last of these weekly uploads was the Pikmin 3 boss ranking. Pikmin was my biggest obsession throughout 2024, so I'm not surprised that I started making videos on it as soon as I did. It's also no surprise that the first one I did was on Pikmin 3's bosses, because on top of that being my favourite game in the series, it also has my favourite boss lineup in the series. I really love how massive in scope they're all able to feel. I maybe could have brought up some more downsides for why some didn't rank higher, like the Behemoth Fozbat being stuck down at number 3 because its dust attacks are non-lethal, so its options for actually killing your Pikmin are kind of limited, or the Quaggo Myrclops maybe not making blues as viable as it could have, but generally I'm still fairly happy with this one. Also, whenever I was replaying the game to prepare for this one, if I was in a call with my friends at the time, because I used push to talk, it means that I would go silent for a while, and then anytime that I ended up speaking, they would just hear Pikmin start making noises in the background. My friends have been unable to escape my Pikmin obsession, and they never will, because it's going to keep going strong for 2025. Then once I got all those out, my next video after that was my most popular one of the year actually, the Animation Studio debut ranking. It is such a cathartic feeling to have my most viewed video of the year not be a death battle one for once. Like, I like making death battle videos, but it can be a bit suffocating when it feels like they're the only thing on my channel that does well, so for something else to be my biggest success of the year felt so good. It helps that I'm still happy with it. It was a lot of fun to go through the movies, and I think there's enough variety in different styles between the studios to make them fairly interesting to talk about. There are a couple bits that I look back on and like, maybe could have done a bit better on that. In the Coraline section, I used the phrase fully lived up to everything I'd heard about it twice, and somehow never picked up on that during writing, recording, or editing. I think I only noticed about a week after the video went live, so that was a blunder. Gotta try and be a bit more observant next time I'm going through my scripts. And I think I don't really like the way I ended the open season section. I was very much experimenting with the angry cartoon reviewer bit, but now that I've actually tried it, I just don't think it's my style. And while it's technically not wrong that I wouldn't seek out the open season sequels for no reason if I was in my right mind, at the same time, come on man, it's never that deep. There were more people defending the movie in the comments than I expected actually, most of which is totally valid, like people just saying they enjoyed it, ironically or otherwise. But there's also the people who are like, oh my god, I can't believe you want every kids movie to be a masterpiece. It's like, this is the same video where I gassed up Despicable Me and Ice Age and also say that I liked the Mario movie. Like, there is very much middle ground between expecting everything to be high art and saying I don't like that this movie actively chooses to be the most annoying thing ever. Did I want open season to be a deep masterpiece? No. I just wish I didn't find it so fucking miserable to sit through. Outside of those though, I was really happy to see that I got some genuinely constructive feedback and people sharing other viewpoints in the comments. Like people pointing out that, yeah, I should have maybe included some other older studios that weren't on my radar because they were before my time. I still had to draw the line somewhere for how many films to include, but at the very least I probably should have represented Fleischer on there. It was also really cool to see how many people loved Secret of Kells and shared that respectfully. A lot of the comments I got about that were less telling me that I was wrong and more just saying that, yeah, I can see where you're coming from, but here's why I love it. Here's all the other deeper meanings I took away from it, and that was really nice. It's awesome to see that there are people with so much passion for something that I like but don't really share that enthusiasm for. You guys are chill and I hope you continue to enjoy your movie. So this was the surprise hit of the year, and I'm glad about that because I think it was one of the better options. Then we're back to basics with another Death Battle review, the first one in almost a year. It was nice to do one of these again, and I was always going to do one for the first episode they did after the Rooster Teeth closure. But also, this is not going to be a very common style of video going forward for me. Not that I've stopped enjoying doing them, there's just so many other ideas that I want to do, and so I don't want to keep pushing things back just for the sake of keeping up with every single death battle. well. That's why I didn't do one for Joker vs. Giorno, and the Fall Guys vs. Among Us one is just going to be part of the 2024 ranking that I'm hoping to release in the next couple months. I'll still do some whenever I have enough to say about an episode or feel really passionately about it, but expect those to become much rarer. As for the review itself, I think it's fine, it's bog standard, I'm happy enough with it. I gotta cram in a bunch of inside jokes, so it's like we never left, just constantly mentioning Think Mark and Dr. Wheelo. It's fun shoehorning as many of those into scripts as I can for the sake of me and my friends' enjoyment, while they mostly just fly over everyone else's heads. It was a little annoying how many people couldn't fathom that I didn't care about the verdict because I'm not really in the power scaling scene. I'm not even gonna defend the Sundisk feat because frankly they didn't convince me either with their explanation in the episodes, but it is the least important aspect of a death battle to me, so I'm not gonna get too hung up on it. In continuing the streak of death battle videos, the OST ranking. I don't think this is one of my better videos of the year. I don't dislike it, it was fun to work on, but music's very much not my strong suit and I don't always know the best ways to elaborate on why I do or don't like a song. So in a ranking with so many entries, it means that some bits do end up feeling kind of repetitive. I don't think I'd do many other music rankings in the future, and even if I did, it would be for another OST with a much smaller number of songs to cover. I was glad to see how different this ended up being from Nem's one though. Considering how similar our opinions on Death Battle tend to be a lot of the time, having such wildly different placements for most of these songs made for a much more interesting viewing experience, I think. I didn't get as much pushback with as many of the spots as I was expecting. The one to get the most disagreements was Suit Yourself surprisingly, rather than Blood Moon or Ikari, which were the ones I was bracing myself for. Everything else seemed to be agreeable to most people, which I wasn't expecting at all. Regardless of how the final video turned out, I really enjoyed going back to all these songs, some of which I've never really given a proper listen on their own. I started production just listening to the songs in the background while I was at work, but that actually continued up to when I went on the trip where I finished the One Punch Man video. So I'd just be sitting out in the sun listening to fucking Resident Rising, a score from the Rooster Teeth series or whatever. Thankfully though, by that point I'd already had most of the list decided, so that didn't take up too much of my time. And the final Death Battle video of the year was the Bowser vs. Eggman review, another one that was super fun to write with Sam. Like I mentioned with the TF2 video, I don't one-to-one call with people as much, so it was cool to just get to vibe with Sam for a bit and talk about our new favourite episodes. I normally get very antsy when I've got a collab project on a tight timescale like this one was, because if I've got my schedule planned out in my head and then there's an element that's just completely out of my control, that makes me stress more than I should. And I definitely was feeling that for like a day or two, but once Sam and I were able to arrange a call to finish the script, he got his lines in very quickly and I was able to knock out the video in like a couple days after that. I edited the reaction highlights on a prior day, but the main section of the review, which was half an hour, I somehow managed to edit in a single night. I don't know how I managed that, but I am never doing it again, Jesus Christ. I think this is one of my better Death Battle reviews. The passion really shines through from both me and Sam. And the reaction highlights I find myself going back to a lot. It's a lot of fun to hear my friends freaking out at every other thing that happens in the animation. These reaction highlights also tend to spawn a lot of inside jokes in our group that will just quote at the person who says something. And for this one, GA has drawn the short straw because we keep quoting, "Oh, he's Dry Bowser," at him. He's a very big fan. Shout out to Dry Bowser. Then for the video that I was not expecting to do as well as it did, the Schaffrillas last place ranking. I still can't believe that I had planned this since the summer, and then less than a week before I'm scheduled to release it, Schaffrillas himself reveals that he's doing the exact same thing except more. Very funny coincidence, and I would not be surprised if that was the reason this one performed as well as it did. Closing in on 30,000 views now, which is even above a lot of the Death Battle videos I did this year. I'm glad that I'm getting to expand my bubble a lot more. It's really cool that Death Battle is no longer the only thing people will watch from me. The video was a lot of fun to write, though I did kind of get tired of editing partway through. That just tends to happen with larger projects on this scale. Eventually I'm going to want to work on something else. The video was received well though, so I'm glad people like it. When I asked you all what your favourite videos of the year were from me, this was one of the most common answers I saw alongside the Bowser vs. Eggman review and the Animation Studio debut ranking. So I'm glad this experiment with a less positive style paid off, but do not expect many more videos focusing primarily on things that I don't like. Except the Tim Hill ranking though, because a lot of you in the comments seem to really want it, so I've put it on the docket for this year. I hope I'll get around to it soon. That'll hopefully be a shorter video though, because I do not want to put any more 45+ minute projects on my plate that I don't need to. This is the video that took the longest for me to make this year, and I don't want to do anything of this scale again for quite some time. I was surprised to see that some of Shafe's editors actually saw it, those being Bustercore and official PSASD, and that was really cool to see in the comments. Very pleasant surprise. I don't know if the Crabman himself has seen it though. If he has, then I hope he liked it, and if he hasn't, don't fucking pester him about it, don't be annoying. His video ranking all of his last place spots was really fun, by the way. Though to be completely honest, as someone who also hates Hop and Surfs Up 2 with every fibre of my being, I think he kind of oversold it. Like, it was entertaining, it was fun, but there also comes a point where it's like, oh, okay, we're getting to the point of unbelievability here. His one releasing also sparked a lot of, hey, you're never gonna believe this comments, which I guess means those people are outing themselves at having not watched the opening 90 seconds. And last but not least, the Pikmin 1 boss ranking. Yeah, I feel similarly towards this as I do for the Pikmin 3 one, except I do like this one a little better since I feel I did a better job explaining the placements. I also like the Frieza edit, the where did he go thing, that was kind of funny. It was a nice shorter project to close the year out with, which I definitely needed after the massive projects I'd done in the back half of the year. And I guess technically for my time zone, this is my first video of 2025, but I was in America when I published it on New Year's Eve, and it was still 4 or 5 hours away from the clocks hitting midnight, so this still technically counts as 2024. I had intended to finish it before the trip that I went on, but I didn't get it done in time, so I ended up finishing the base edit on the plane, and then putting the final touches on while I was there. That is the benefit to editing on my phone, because it means I don't need to take my laptop anywhere. One morning I was the first one up, so I just sat in the kitchen and got the music ready to put in the final edit before everyone else arrived downstairs. Then whenever I had any alone time that day, I would spend it doing the render and the test upload. I had to redo it to fix a slight error, but I got it out in time and was able to just enjoy New Year's with my friends. Hopefully I can get around to at least one of the remaining Pikmin boss rankings that I've got to do this year. And that brings us to the end of the video, so thank you all for watching this little retrospective. I hope this was something that was worth doing, and if it was, maybe I'll do some for future years, who knows. As for what's on the table for this year, well, I did mention that I want to move away from doing as many Death Battle videos to allow myself to branch out and do more projects that I'm really passionate about. But that doesn't mean I'm going to stop them outright. I'd still got to do my ranking of the 2024 episodes. I want to do the top 10 transformations video that won the poll, and I'll still review episodes here and there if any catch my eye. As for other stuff, again, I want to do the Pikmin boss rankings. I want to do the Tim Hill film ranking. The Gravity Falls episode ranking won that poll I did, and I would also like to do the Mario Galaxy 2 video if I can. If I could get the community episode ranking done as well and get all 3 from that poll done, then that would be amazing, but do not count on that. Maybe another Mario Kart video if I feel like being financially irresponsible and getting a copy of Double Dash and a controller and a memory card for my Wii. I want to talk about all the Godzilla movies now that I've seen all of those. I got an April Fool's video that I'll hopefully be able to get done in time, but may have to push it back a year, I'm not entirely sure yet. Of course I'll be doing my annual video on my favourite media I checked out last year, and there were some ideas that I'd said I was hoping to do last year that I just wasn't able to get around to, like the Disney Renaissance song one, or the collab that I'll do with Nem where we each give each other 5 films to review that we haven't seen before. And if possible, I'd like to do a video on my thoughts on the Best Animated Feature Oscar nominees if I can find the time for it before the ceremony, because there's only like 4 or 5 weeks between the announcements and the actual show, so not a whole lot of time for me to get on that. We'll see. I got a lot planned for this year. I was able to get 22 videos out during 2024, so I'm hoping I can get a similar amount in 2025, but we shall see. Thanks to everyone who tuned in over the last year. It's been a fun year of working on stuff, and I'm glad everything seems to have been received well. If there's anything I brought up in this video that seems of interest to you and you happen to miss it, then I've got a playlist put together of all the videos that I talked about here, so you can check those out if you want. Here's hoping I can keep the momentum going for the rest of this year and beyond. See you in the next scripted video, whenever that is. Have a good one. It is getting a bit late, so I am going to bed.